Okay, so first off, I just spoke with with Jana at the bookstore yesterday. She says, and I checked again with her this morning to make sure they were still there. She says there are 2 pads of newsprint still at the bookstore. How many of you are still without a pad of newsprint? If you do not have a pad of newsprint, I need you to raise your hand for me so that I know.
What?
A pad of newsprint. Okay, so that's all right. So go by. If for some reason you weren't able to see them before, ask about them because she says there are 2. I will contact her because I know that I've also got a couple of people in the other class who say they don't have any, and let her know, yes, I need her to reorder and give her a number. But if you run by right after class, you can get one. She says there are 2 in there, right? So that's the first thing, right? There are two remaining pads of newsprint in the bookstore if you want to grab them very quickly after class. If that's not an option for you, no problem. I'm talking to her as soon as class is over today to let her know that we need to order some more, and the turnaround's usually pretty quick. So there's that. All right. So today we're continuing with 2-point perspective. There's only really one thing out there in the still life that is new, and that is that I have a cylinder that is lying down on its side. All right. So up here, I'm just going to talk about that real quickly. I'm doing it up here because my camcorder that I normally use over there, I forgot to put on the charger, and so it's not powered up enough to work. So I'm going to do it here so I can record this. So, all right, you've got a cylinder out there. It's lying on its side rather than standing up straight. Let's put phones away right now. So it will be, depending on how you are seeing it, which side you're standing on, it's going to be receding away from you in space toward one or the other of these 2 vanishing points. But where we're used to, I got my pencil yet. Where we're used to drawing, say, that looks horrible, but I know how I'll do it. Right, we're used to drawing an ellipse like so, either on a horizontal or a vertical axis. Right? It's not always easy to know exactly, though, how on that vertical axis you need to foreshorten this circle that's going to make up the circle of that cylinder as it's lying on its side. So one way of us doing that, let me put a couple of layers on here. All right, so I have, let's say, a cylinder that's lying down this way, so it's going toward the vanishing point over on my left. All right, I need to know where I'm going to put that ellipse and how foreshortened it should be. So one way of doing that is to make myself a foreshortened rectangle using my 2 vanishing, well, this one vanishing point over here. All right, I'll cap this off here. All right, now what I'm going to need then is an ellipse that I'm going to try to fit in here, making sure that it touches all 4 sides of this foreshortened rectangle that I've made. It's going to look like crap on here, I'm sure. I'm going to do my best. No, not like that, I'm not. All right, and then around here, down here. Okay, that doesn't suck as bad as I thought it would. All right, that way I know it is foreshortened in the correct manner for where it is on the page. I know that because, say, if it were up here, much closer to my horizon, and much closer to my vanishing point, it's going to be a lot more foreshortened, a lot more squished, right? This allows me, oh, I shouldn't have put those on that layer though. This allows me to know for sure that I have the right amount of foreshortening there. All right. Then, from my very wonky ellipse here, from a point that is the very tip top, as far as I can go before this line starts switching to go the other direction, and at the very bottom before this line starts moving in the other direction, I need a line that's headed toward my vanishing point that corresponds to the direction I see that cylinder moving away from me in space. Now, it's a cylinder going off into forever, right? Which isn't the case. The cylinder comes to an end somewhere. So somewhere along the way, wherever I feel like the end of this thing should be capped off, I need to do so with another ellipse. And it should have a similar foreshortening to this one. So let's say I think it's about right here-ish. I'm going to do my best. It's very hard to do with a mouse. I wish I had a tablet with me right now. All right. It sucks, but it'll do. All right. Now, grab an eraser. Where is my eraser? There it is. Get it a little bigger. And I'd get rid of this line. I don't need it. And these lines, because I don't need them. They were imaginary. And what I'm left with then is a cylinder. That ellipse right there is a little squished, but still, for the purposes of me working on this screen, this is going to work. That's there lying on its side. Right? I know that my foreshortening here is correct because I spent some time making that foreshortened, really a foreshortened square. That let me know this is where it should be. I gave myself my lines headed toward my vanishing point that corresponded with the direction that I see this going in front of me. I capped it off with another ellipse that, if I were actually using a pencil, would have been closer to how this one looks. And then erased out those imaginary lines that I don't need. That gives me the illusion that it's closer to me here, further away from me here. All right, everything else that's out there, you already know how to deal with. So go ahead and get to your spots. Whether you work from a standing or seated position, I leave up to you. Let's put the phones away. Make a lie. Put the phone away. We're talking about homework right now. All right, so homework this time around is to draw an interior. It should be the same as the last homework that you did, that same space. Only this time around, you're going to draw it in 2-point perspective. Like it says here, consider a different point of view. So, if when we were drawing in 1-point perspective, I had to square my shoulders off with a wall in order to see that room in 1-point perspective, how should I face this time if I want to see my room in 2-point perspective? Points on me. Well, yes, but when I'm positioning myself in the room, where should I look? Looking at a corner? Yeah, you want to face into a corner of the room. Yeah. And then just like with 1-point perspective, if you look out and there's anything that's not in perspective, go out and move it. Or if you're incapable of moving it, either don't draw it at all or fake it and try to draw it as if it were in 2-point perspective, right? But yeah, you want to be facing into a corner. So for me, I'd be facing this way so that I'm looking into that corner. If I'm looking over here, I'm seeing everything in 1-point perspective, and I'm going to screw my drawing up because of it. I'm facing this way, and most everything I'm looking at is in 2-point perspective. Things like that drawing horse that's right there, that's slightly askew, I'd get up and I'd move it. That table, well, that table would probably be out of my drawing anyway, but it's not in perspective. I would need to turn it to either this way or this way in order for it to be in perspective. All right. Line only. A couple of you forgot that on the first, the 1-point perspective homework, and you used some value and shaded in some spots. All right, just line for this, right? And this time around, I really do want you to think about line variation. It will be part of the grade. So when you have a finished drawing on the page, working in 2B, then I want you to get your 4 and your 6B out and think about what lines need to be strengthened, which lines should be darker as they start and then trail and become thinner as they move away. Now, I wanted you guys to have more time in the classroom to draw and get the practice in rather than sitting and watching me draw in 2-point perspective up there. So what you have when you click on this assignment, right here, is this video where I am going to walk you through drawing a room in 2-point perspective. Now, don't draw the exact room that I draw. Draw from observation of your room. But I explain things like how we did with 1-point perspective, where in order to get these walls, right, you need the vertical line for your corner, and then you need lines that go away from your vanishing point to give you these right here. But I also talk about how to, just like we did in class last week, how to draw a doorway, how to draw something that might be attached to the wall but coming outward from it. Like I drew this like what I was like, maybe if I had an exit sign attached to the door. Well, you can't see that very well. Trying to find where my hands aren't in the way. Yeah, or something like a cabinet or a dresser. How do you deal with floorboards or tiles? I go through all that in this video. Yes, it's 25 minutes, but better that 25 minutes be spent on your own time where you can sort of scrub through, or you can even, where is it? Make me like talk like a chipmunk and put it at twice the speed so that it all goes very quickly. If that's what you want, then for me to stand here for 25 minutes and go through this with you guys and it take away from your opportunity to get the practice in. All right, so examples. All right, the student's looking into the corner, dealing with their objects in 2-point perspective. They're thinking about the flooring and they're thinking about their line variation. This student is the same one who in the other one, you remember had this hanging on the wall who goes absolutely bonkers. This student who may have taken this rug a bit far away because it's going nearly to the horizon, so it feels like it's just going and going and going off into nearly forever, but still not bad. And they thought about their line variation. This student, this is the same one that did the bathroom that you saw with the 1-point perspective. He decided to take a traffic cone into the bathroom just because he didn't have any cones. And he was like, I want a cone. Please don't go and steal a traffic cone. I don't know where he got his, and I didn't ask. But there it is, right? And he sat down again, which meant his horizon came down low, which meant that all these lines became very drastic, and it gives us a really nice sense of we're sitting on the floor. Now, this student, this is, right, not super complicated. You can see here, this was a nice B+, because they certainly didn't go as complex, say, as something like this. Definitely nowhere near as complex as that, right? But I don't see mistakes. I see a student who's got their lines going to the right points all of the time. I see them challenging themselves a little bit to try to get these windows in there. I even see where they made a mistake because they had a line down here that was going the wrong way. See that line for the floor there that they erased? And they had drawn this entire thing here, this entire dresser, and then realized that this line right here was in the wrong place. And so they erased it and fixed it. And I see them thinking about line variation. Look at these dark, thick lines on this rug where it's close to us, and then how they trail and become thinner as they move away. Or how they thought about the darker lines on the front of this bed, and then them trailing as they move away. Even the window. Some nice dark lines here, and then they trail as they move away. All right? So good, solid B+ as a result. All right? So there's some other things, like they thought about, say, where the lines for the ceiling are closer to us, making them darker and trail as they go away from us. They didn't think about that as much down here. This little lamp could have maybe used a little extra treatment. But still, and I mean, the bed has been made really simplified so that they can get this 2-point perspective down. This is the same student who, in the 1-point perspective I showed you, had that really big mistake. They're not making any mistakes here. The kitchen, another kitchen. Kitchens are always good. And you can see, right, there are places where they're trying to get line variation in. They're making some mistakes. This is the closest thing to us, and yet there are some lines behind it that are even darker, but they're trying. And that's the main thing I want you to try. This student who's drawn this in 1-point perspective, and then they thought about, let me make this corner nice and dark, and then they make these lines dark and trail as they move away from us to give us that good, strong sense of three-dimensional space. Here again is why you should not use Velo. She struggled. She had to do, these lines are horizontal when they shouldn't be. This student, pretty solid, looking into the corner. Right. They did bring some value in, but they did it with lines and try to give me this whole line. But well, I didn't. I just made them with lines, so it still is just lines only. Still, I'd much prefer you just dealt with planes rather than trying to go in and make value. All right. As I said, the video is right there when you click on this assignment. I wouldn't wait until like Monday night to sit down and watch this and then try to make your drawing. Watch this sometime before then so that you've got it. Take notes, make a little quick sketch in your sketchbook even. And I got so busy, I still forgot to check for those pockets in the back of your sketchbooks. But I'm not going to try to do it now because we only have a minute left of class. Bring them on Tuesday. I'll try to do it at the very beginning of class on Tuesday. All right, take care. Have a good weekend. I'll see you on Tuesday.